So, Ahmed, welcome to CTO Confessions. It's great to have you on board, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent, excellent. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What are you doing? Who do you work for?
Great. So my name is Ahmed. I work as a CTO at a company called Bayzat, based in UAE and Saudi Arabia. We provide what we call a work-life platform for different company size from 20 employees up to 500. This is our ICP, a little bit less, a little bit more. And we call it like it's a super app for companies within this range of size.
Fantastic. So I've seen some of these platforms in companies before. And so what makes your platform unique compared to some of the stuff out there?
I think first of all, we went very hyper localized. So we are serving companies that are established in UAE and KSA in a very unique way. We also got there taking care of three main categories within the companies. People, everything to do with their well-being. So we have like services that covers everything from their physical wellness to their financial wellness, their mental health, their nutrition, and we develop different various of services that goes around that to processes. So we are trying to simplify the process of like performance management, of HR process, and of everything that is going on to reduce the time wasted and let people focus on people and providing them what is they need support for to do the work that they need to do. And we have like a phrase here, we say it takes work to change work. So we try to bring that with our focus on process efficiency. And the third bucket, you can think about all financial related service. So processing the payroll, invoices, account payable, account receivable, expense management, and so on. So we try to power the finance team within our organization with the right systems and tools in place so they can run their financial related service very seamlessly.
Yeah. So I can imagine that kind of deloads the departments of much of the kind of activities that would normally take up time, but also it kind of enforces a policy through a platform. It kind of streamlines it in some way. Yeah. So I want to explore that again in a slightly deeper way, because you kind of mentioned some stuff which has kind of picked up my ears a little bit. But first of all, I want to kind of just put the spotlight on you and the work that you do, because technology leaders have a very big challenge at the moment. It's a little bit of a crazy world out there in a good way. Hopefully, it's not all bad. But the pace of technology change and processes, progression of technology is quite huge. In fact, extraordinary. I mean, does that worry you at all? Does that kind of, is it a problem in your space, or do you handle it like a warrior?
On the contrary, I think that the change is good, and people bringing different perspective from their life experience into building something very unique within a work environment is actually that's what define innovation. And I studied innovation myself. I studied in technology innovation and technology management in London School of Business and Finance. And during this time, I learned a lot about like how you define creativity and innovation. And I think one of the unique things that we are seeing now is people coming from all different backgrounds and shaping and taking the learnings and the unique experience and putting it in software, and that's create a very unique opportunity for the world and for the companies that they work for.
Yeah. So it doesn't worry you at all?
The contrary, it excites me a lot.
That's really good. But we can't help asking the question, does this over innovation and over inventing has it gone too far? Are we kind of like trying to run while we I can imagine that there's things that are being invented and innovated that kind of get left by the wayside because we're kind of like onto the next thing. It's a little bit of an ADHD type of thing in the kind of in the innovation space.
Definitely, that's a risk, and maybe that's why you will see some topics we crack today. The first discussion happened in maybe the early 30s and 50s. So what happened, as you said, like if you got this like no group of people committed for years to crack something very complex scientifically, you end up with leaving and jumping on something else, and maybe what we are leaving today, future generations will crack it down. Sometimes it's not the right time, of course, we know that as well. Like in some situation, it's just a bad time, like it's not any limitation or not a lack of commitment, but sometimes simply because you don't have the right compute power and you don't have the right technology to support the invention. But abandoning an idea too early is kind of something that always happen. But also because the magnitude of the experimentation and the innovation, as you said, like because you got maybe like if you get a 10% success rate, that's amazing. So when you got this at scale and you got one out of this of like hundreds of thousands of people trying to build things and one thing work well, it can change the world. And we have seen this multiple times in the especially in the last decade or so.
Wow. Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah, I'm always fascinated. As we mentioned offline, I come from a technology background, and the pace is just huge now. And especially being a tech leader, you've got to make choices to where you go, what you pick up, and what you drop, what you ignore, and what have you. And you're going to make an interesting point there around. Some of these innovations, they require a blend of other things to be in the space as well before they become kind of useful. It reminds me of a game. I don't know if you've played it actually. Civilization. Do you ever play Civ?
No.
No, right, okay. Some of them, our listeners out there might kind of know what I'm talking about. It's a bit of a geeky game, but in there it has, as you're building up a civilization, there's various technologies that come about, but they, on their own, they're useless. Something else has to come into the space to create the right blend of something to become kind of useful and practical. Yeah, I don't know. If anybody's listening out there has played Civ, high fives to you. What a great game. A blast from the past. You kind of mentioned that, your platform uses AI. Okay. You're using AI. Has that been quite hard to kind of integrate in? Is it something that you've been working on for a while, and it's something that you've brought in as it matured, coming onto this kind of maturity of certain inventions? I mean, how's that journey been for you?
It's interesting. So, I I work before joining Bayzat. I was working on an AI company in 2016, trying to disrupt digital marketing for small businesses that they don't have a marketing team, and that was a very complex problem to solve at this time. And as we discussed, like sometimes the technology is not there, and like it's very challenging. So when I joined Bayzat, I had always this idea like, okay, there's a lot I learned that can solve very unique problems in a very efficient way. So there was always some internal tools using traditional machine learning models, regression models, and so on. And in the late 2022, I was very interested in a summarization problem. Actually, maybe for a year or something, I was working with BERT, a very small model from Google. Anyone from the early days, they know it. And they start to do some, like, can I summarize a chapter? How can I recursively summarize book? Just as a hobby, has nothing to do with Bayzat. But the more I work with language, the more I got understanding of what's possible. So when GPT-3 came around in late 2022, I ran an experiment where I copied a help article from our online help.bayzat.com. And then I got a ticket from a customer asking a question. And I know that the answer in this help article, so I did it manually. I took the question and I took the article, I put in GPT-3, and I asked it to give me an answer, and it was fascinating, and it was very accurate. This is late 2022. But as you can see here, the problem is I did this manually, so who would do that? Then I started to hack it around. So I built a Slack bot that uses like very hacky pipeline because there was no RAGs. at this time, retriever augmented generation was not a thing. So I called it LLM context provider. And the idea was to try to search, find the right article, and get the support ticket from the customer support team, and then try to get the answer, draft for them an email so they can take it and provide the answer for the user. So this was the first AI experiment in Bayzat that I ever ran.
Yeah. I mean, that's quite. And what impact did that have on your kind of work environment and I guess the end kind of customer?
Yeah, so since this was an internal tool experiment, my colleagues in the company, especially from customer support, start to use it every day, and they give a feedback that this is fascinating, it's very efficient. Can you create more of this like bots? So I started to build some for sales teams that they can answer questions while they're in a call with a prospect. So instead of saying, for example, a prospect could ask, "Do you have this integration with this biometric device?" Sales team will not know what do we say. Hold on, I will ask the engineering. I will take a notes. I will come back to you. They lose the momentum. Now they can just open Slack one and say, "Do we have an integration with this?" They ask AI. It does the same. Search for an answer, provides the answer. You can answer immediately on the call for the prospect. And then I start to scale from there. So I built like 5 bots internally on Slack between marketing, sales, customer support, and so on. And then because it was widely accepted within the organization, we thought, okay, what about we start to provide this, to make it like a product feature to our clients? And we built something called Knowledge Hub. And Knowledge Hub was the first AI feature we launched in March 2023, where it was about, as an enterprise, as a company, upload your policies, upload your guidelines, your troubleshooting guides, your help articles, upload whatever you want. Same as would you do in any platform like G Drive or something like that, or Confluence. You can write with AI Assistant, and you can create spaces and assign enterprise permission to who within the organization can access that. Is this specifically for sales department? Is this one for an HR policy, for example, for the entire org? Is this something only for engineers? So you start to create the spaces, and anyone can create space, upload documents, or write directly and edit the documents. And then the chat interface, when anyone from the company, any employee in that company, ask a question, first we go check which documents you have access to, and then we go, because we embed everything and we have embedding pipeline, so we do similarity search, so probe a RAG, and then get the answer, and then formulate it and provide it to the employee who asked the question. And this was the first launch for an AI product within Bayzat in 2023.
Wow. Yeah. Pretty cool stuff. That's pretty. Yeah, it's interesting. I imagine, as you start to kind of unlock this, it's started to create all kinds of opportunities within the business to kind of smooth out certain flow. It's creating a flow. You're not waiting. There's no kind of stopping and starting. It just kind of, that's really interesting. I can't help asking the question, where you get some of the inspiration of how you kind of solve this stuff. I can imagine, obviously engaging with your customers, but do you ever look at what competitors are doing, seeing what's going on over there on the other side of that fence?
I think, in my opinion about competition, because it kind of create a bias, and then you see company that look too much into competition forming into a certain direction, and it become all kind of similar. So it's good to maybe keep a long distant eye, but like our funnel of ideas, it starts with customer feedback, problems our client facing, problem we are facing, because we are using our own platform within Bayzat. So we use Bayzat for Bayzat. So feedback from our colleagues, because it's honest, transparent, and also sometimes just a research and crazy ideas and hackathon and experimentation. So I remember one of the things that I mentioned, for example, to you was a wellness. The entire idea of wellness, it came in a hackathon. In 3 days hackathon, between 2 engineers and 1 product manager. So they were sitting in the office, and they started with one question. We want employees to use Bayzat in a playful way. We want them to get to open the apps more, what to do, and also we wanted something to be helpful. So we thought, okay, what if we created a fitness challenge, connect your wearable, and then an employee or department can say, okay, whoever will hit 10,000 steps every day for a week will be number one, or the maximum number of steps. And then they hacked it literally in 3 days, and then we launched it, and it was amazing, the feedback. We iterated from May 2022 till maybe mid 2023. Yeah, till mid 2023 on this product, till it became from just a small hackathon idea for a fitness challenge to a full wellness modules that include nutritionist, physical challenge, mental health support, and so on. So sometimes also these new ideas and innovation come from unintentional debates and discovery and experimentation.
There's something around you creating the conditions for that to emerge, you know? I think that's part of leadership is it's not so much having the ideas and then saying this is what we're going to do, but creating and getting people to think in a different way. So, kudos to that. That's pretty interesting. How often do you have these kind of hackathons?
A lot. Actually, I just want to double down on what you said. So I think one of the, and I believe strongly, like one of the main responsibility for a leader is just to create this environment and build a safe space for the team members to do something. So basically, if you create a psychological safety for the team, that they see failure as an opportunity, not as a shameful mistake. And when you ask the question of like blame in a blameless post-mortem manner, like how we can learn from this opportunity of failure, and look into learning from failure is much more than learning from success. Then you are harnessing and building an environment that will like get the innovation and the creativity out of people very much. And if you can only do this as a leader, maybe this is your only job. You don't need to do, if you succeed in that, you don't need to do anything else.
Yeah, perfect. That's beautifully said. I'm kind of laughing in my own mind around, how we can make our leadership easier. It's just, it's getting people to kind of step into the space to lead themselves, to bring stuff out. And our job as leaders is just to kind of choreograph the space to be able to allow them to do that. I mean, I'm just kind of joking, maybe we can make a work environment a full-on hackathon, like a hackathon, just all the way through,
Yeah. Which actually, we tried something similar to that. Actually, what we did is one time we built a team that all their job is to continuously do experiments. This experiment in itself failed. So the idea of having a hackathon on didn't work. So we dedicated a team. Okay, what you do is you are an experimental team. Just keep experimenting forever. But that doesn't work because you kind of lose the urge and the accountability out of it. So and we tried also for sometimes that the team who do experiments, the hackathon, other team maintain also failed miserably. So there's a right balance between like experimenting and then when you see the potential and the seeds to continually iterating and improving to make it actually work. Because the first step of getting an early traction is not enough of making a huge impact, and you need kind of this snowball and iterative approach. And we talk about agile before we started the recording. So it's the same, like if you are going in small iteration continuously and learning and pivoting, this is what actually create a really good product.
Yes, yeah. It kind of reminds me of nature does this as well, doesn't it? It doesn't kind of have something consistent going on. There's kind of waves and then there's seasons and there's periods where something happens and then that kind of comes to an end. So yeah. Yes, that's interesting. And I want to come back to your platform. You mentioned something really interesting. It picked up my ears because I'm a very human-centric leader, and your platform seems to kind of focus very much on people's well-being, or has a part of that in there. I think it has lots of features which are very useful for the business as a whole. But the well-being, the wellness side of stuff, And do you have a way of kind of measuring how that's impacting people? I don't want to kind of create metrics out of this, but is there? I think it's a great thing to provide, to allow people to kind of help themselves.
Yeah. I think how we think about it is the engagement of employees in that. For example, the fitness challenge is about a fitness challenge, like physical challenge. You create any challenge, like I want to run every day, and you have a wearable that's connected with Bayzat application, and then you are challenging your colleagues. A few others will say, okay, we're interested. And then they start to do this activity. So the success of this is how many people are engaging in different challenges, different physical challenges. And when we look into the metric, it's fascinating. So people love the idea of being always into like this gamification modes, and every week we have an automatic news feed where we publish work anniversary, birthdays, etc., and fitness challenge winners. So people get just very symbolic. It's like a badge on the app, but people want that, and people love that, and people want to stay fit, and they encourage so many people, that a lot of my colleagues as well, who never thought about running or doing or tracking their activities, to start doing that, and they start to be very competitive and want to win and so on, and there's no there's no money or material gift involved in it, but just people do it with because of the sense of gamification. And when we did that, it helped a lot of employees in so many different jobs that it doesn't necessarily require them to move a lot, and it can impact their health to actually move and do something.
I think that's really important, as human beings, just on the kind of moving side of stuff. We're designed to move, okay? A lot of us spend a lot of time in front of these things here, which is obviously what we need to do. But I think anything to encourage people to do a bit more activity is huge. And that has a bottom line effect. Sometimes people say, well, what's that got to do with business? It's got everything to do with business, If people are doing well, they're feeling well, et cetera, it creates the conditions for something to emerge.
Absolutely.
So my question to you then is, do you do running? What's your fitness thing?
I do walk. I can't run actually because I have a back injury and surgery. So I can't run, but I walk a lot with my dog. So this is kind of the place where I disconnect and I put an audiobook or something. And I'm very imaginary person, visionary. So when I listen to something, I travel to that era. I don't see or notice anything in the street. I literally become there. So it's part of my meditation. It's part of my habit. And I do maybe 2 hours a day, and I love it.
Yeah. And I can imagine your platform allows people to kind of communicate that into a space, and that inspires, I always find it interesting, what makes other people rock and what they enjoy. It inspires, if it's inspiring, then it's something in you that wants to express itself as well. So I'm a runner myself. I run every morning, about 5K. But that was actually started off by not a platform, but by other people in the organization that were into running, and it just kind of got me curious, and I started running with them, and obviously I never stopped. But I guess these kind of platforms, they sow those seeds of well, this is what people are doing, this is what you could do as well, and inviting people to kind of gamify it, to kind of join in and create a little bit of healthy competition in the space. So fantastic.
Yeah, we host as well. We host a lot. So we host a lot of this wellness events. So we what we do is but by the way, we're not getting paid for this or something. We literally it's part of being in a community within Bayzat. So we don't go charge community. We'll do a wellness session and educate your employees and pay us. Nothing like that. And also mostly it's volunteers from our team members. So we have a team member. She's amazing, and she is in hiking and stuff. And then she will organize a wellness session about that, and she will take a group of people from our clients, and she doesn't know them, just to go hiking. Or we had also a lot of mindfulness sessions from some of our colleagues, very passionate about it. And then we create just the event and say, anyone from our clients, or not even our client, invite anyone who wants to attend and comment. So we do a lot of this wellness session, mental wellness, physical wellness, and we try to do them continuously. It's part to be to engage with the community and to be there, and that I think it's very helpful. And it's necessary to be in every community, regardless where you are.
Yeah, fantastic. Sounds like a great thing. You're making a difference, and that deserves respect. So, in your kind of journey in your career, has anything really surprised you? I mean, obviously, there's the AI thing. Is that the only thing that surprised you? What's the developments in your journey that you'd like to kind of call out here?
Yeah, I have nearly 2 decades of working experience in technology, and I think one of the things that very unique when I worked in the telco industry, I was working and still as a software engineer, but there is a lot of unique technology aspects when you work in the network engineering and in the network development space that's not easily, you can't see it in the day-to-day mobile apps or web apps. And this kind of how this technology is progressing, which allowed us to communicate right now in a very nice way. And we have like this, in the cloud infrastructures, the data centers. I remember going into very cold data centers, putting the servers myself and like connecting everything, building the virtualization. So very few people had the experience to use their hands to build things. Like in data center, we talked also about like in the RF space and radio. This is very beautiful, and while people can take this as for granted that we have connectivity, it's not. It's very, very challenging. And what also important about that is you start to appreciate when you run something in the cloud, what's happening behind the scene, what are the alternative, and what happened in I remember in 2006, 2007, when S3 got announced. This transition was huge, and being able to just, instead of having like bare metal servers and that center, just enabling anyone with idea to go on the cloud and build an application, deploy it, and people can use it. This is something we are taking for granted. As well, right now what's happening, which is if you have an idea, you can build it with AI, launch it, and people can use it. We will take it for granted soon. And it will be all about creativity, innovation, iterations, solving real world problems. And we are making it a commodity to build a solution, build software, or make commodity to host it, as we did in the 2006, 7. This was the cloud era till 2010. So I think we are very lucky to live into this, from internet, cloud, and now AI. That's insane. Like, I don't think in the history there was any generation that went through 3 life-changing technology breakthrough like ours.
Yeah, they're revolutions overlapping each other, aren't they? Really, you know. It makes you wonder where it's all going to go. Where's this all going to end up? You know. Well, where do you think we're going to end up? That's a question, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I think people talk a lot about this when they answer a question like that. They talk about analogy, and they say we are in AI bubble, same as dot-com bubble, and or they say people would say like this is similar to when everyone was saying the same about C language or object-oriented programming or Python. I don't like analogy. Why? Because with analogy, actually our brains work in a very categorical way, right? We are trying to see something that is closer to the things that we know, and we try to make an exam to say, I know this, I have information about that, so this one looks like closer to that things that happen. And I'm sure during this series they were giving a knowledge about some other things in the past that is also relevant. So my view is there's nothing like it, and you cannot put analogy around it. You cannot say this will be similar to that, because it will not. It will be very, very unique. And as you as you know, in agile development, when you are building a product, you don't necessarily know the final results, and this is part of the process. So you start somewhere, but you ended somewhere completely different. That is very, very fundamentally innovative and creative, and solve a world problem in a very unique way. And there's no way you see that when you start. So we are now starting, and there's no way I can tell you how the end will look like.
Yeah, absolutely. We just got to be agile in the space, kind of thing. I'm going to bring in what we spoke about offline, which is, dance in the moment. We just got to dance with it. Whatever shows up, dance with it, and enjoy the ride, I guess, kind of thing. So I want to speak to you now about teams, because obviously part of leadership is not about you. It's about, the impact that we have in the teams and the teams that we curate and create. So when hiring, what do you prioritize on most? I'm really curious around how do you pick the right people for your team? What's a must-have and a must-know?
First, I try to learn about people's motivation, because what drive people is different. So I always ask this question, like, what motivates you the most? And when they give me the answer, I ask them the flip of that. What demotivates you the most in a work environment? So this gives me a sense of like, because some people, like, let's say, for example, I get demotivated a lot if I didn't receive a praise or something like that. Then you dig deeper. Okay, is it how frequently you want to receive praise about that, or or for example, someone will tell you, I get demotivated a lot when the scope change a lot. And as you said in Agile, that's changing a lot, right? But it doesn't give you a hard no, like, okay, this person cannot adapt, because people change and maybe they haven't seen anything like that before. But it's very important for me to understand their mindset. And when we start to debate and discuss, are they open to change their mind? Are they open to be wrong? And if they have this capacity to actually uh, be very okay that their idea might be wrong and they haven't seen something like that before, that's a very good sign. By the way, I'm trying to avoid looking at, like, discussing the normal thing, like the technique, the basic technical skills, problem solving, etc. This is all like you don't need like 100, but you need a certain level that is acceptable, because it's a muscle and you train. But if people are curious enough and they are courage enough to look into failure as an opportunity, and they have a growth mindset, and they don't look into failure as something shameful, but this is something where they will learn. And if they have this mindset where it's bring them to explore and discover new things, you are in the right space. And usually in the panel interviews, this is where I try to figure out, like, where the mindset is. While in the previous stages, we just validate you have enough growth rate during your past experience and you are technically sound as an engineer. And of course, like that, people around you will like to hang out with you, because otherwise you spend like all day working with your colleagues. So if you're not going to like this group of people, that it's not going to work, regardless how amazing you are or amazing this group is. It's just not compatible. And I also many candidates during post-interview process ask it for feedback, or before that, this is like finding a friend or a partner. If it's not compatible, it's not compatible, and it has nothing to do with that. It's just about what you want, what the organization wants. If both of you are aligned to a big extent, this relationship gonna thrive. Otherwise, it's gonna be painful. There's no point pushing that.
Yes, I think that's beautiful. A beautiful set of questions, actually, because I always think of speaking and asking questions as a way. It's like a sense, another sense that we have by speaking to the system. The system responds back, and it allows us to navigate what's out there. It's a way of seeing what's unseen. And when you ask the question, what motivates you, what demotivates you, I went into my head a little bit there and I was asking myself that question, what demotivates me? What's the most surprising thing that you found that motivated somebody?
Motivation is usually people have similar answers. So they say, I'm working on a complex problem. I'm getting appreciation from my colleagues, etc. So I think in motivation, there's some kind of alignment between. I interviewed thousands of engineers, and they hear something about motivations that was crazy. But for demotivation, you hear all kind of like spectrum, because this is where things like flip. Then you'll find people saying like, if I didn't receive a praise, if my manager criticized my work, I get demotivated. If my colleagues give me feedback, and you will see a lot of surprising things about the demotivation that is like very interesting to hear from so many people. They know that a lot of people are also very sensitive to all the signals around them, and that comes also from self-awareness, where like and also the intrinsic motivation versus like the external factors that motivates you. And if someone has the internal motivation to drive them, they don't care about who tell them what and how things work out. They just like excited to wake up every day and do the work that will change the environment, the companies, the world around them. And that's very, very fundamentally unique.
Yeah, it's around getting to know each other and raising that awareness. The awareness piece is a really important thing, I think, for leadership. Is, everything comes from awareness, because once we're aware, we can do something about it. And yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about what demotivates me. I think actually what demotivates when we don't have a laugh in the space. Actually, that's what motivates me. I like humor, and I like a little bit of banter. Not going too far, but that tends to kind of create the energy in the human system. What motivates you then? What's your motivation?
Well, I have a very like a clear idea about building a workspace where people feel safe and they can get the best out of them, and they can build something they're proud of, and they are in this environment. This is like my drive, my whole thing about being in a leadership space. And if I can build this environment and continue improving it and discover the talent inside people, like nothing for me comparable to getting a very young graduate that no one believed in them, and giving them an opportunity, mentor them, helping them to grow, and seeing them shining, and being in a relationship with them, regardless they continue working for the same company, within Bayzat or not, doesn't matter. I'm still friends with all these sort of colleagues and young engineers that I worked with them in the early time. And this is like my drive of doing what I'm doing every day, to work and discover this amazing talent and help them to grow. Actually, my kind of philosophy of leadership is a servant leadership. And in many organizations, there is a reporting structure, right? So you report to a team leader, or report to an engineering manager, or report to a VP and director, and so on. I flip this pyramid, and what I call the supporting structure. And when you flip the pyramid, actually at the bottom, you have the leaders, and they are supporting. So I support the VPs, to support the engineering manager, to support engineers, to enable them to do the work that you should do. And our job is enablement and allowing the people to actually to get away from to take out all the roadblocks, and to take away everything that can reduce the productivity and innovation, and give them the environment that can allow them to thrive. And this is what true servant leadership is about.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's a great topic. Really go down that rabbit hole, because I think it's in fact, this is what I think Agile was trying to do. It was trying to create that kind of inverse pyramid of leadership to enable people and to support them to get the work done. And it also calls upon them to actually step into leading in the space, getting stuff done, bringing ideas, and what have you. So yeah, I'm 100% there with you on that one. Back, still sticking around the people side of stuff, what's the most underrated skill that you've seen when leading in your technology teams this day and age?
I think being able to articulate your idea. I think that the articulation of what you want to say is very, very underrated, and it's very important because majority of what I've observed over years working with engineers or decades, the engineers will have an amazing idea or a pushback or something you want to say, but because they are not able to articulate very well to the business or to the product or the rest of the team, either they stay quiet, silent, or they become frustrated because they try and then it's not going through. So learning how you can talk about your idea or feedback or and articulating it in a way where it can go through is very, very underrated. And people who are very talented in doing that, they go very far in their career. And why it's not a hard skill, it's very, very important because building in our industry, building a solution with using software is all about working in a group of people between designers, product managers, CS, engineers on different functions from maybe mobile or front end or back end and so on. So you're not working in isolation. You're working with a lot of people in order to solve a problem that will help someone to get their job done. And if you are not able to say your piece and share your idea and knowledge very clearly, then you will end up working something you don't believe in, and then you will be demotivated, and then everything will fall apart.
Yeah, that's the communication piece of it. I'm just reflecting on myself and not. I mean, I have lots of ideas, but I do struggle sometimes to articulate them into the space. There seems to be this regurgitation of everything. Just stops into the space, and people look at it going, "That sounds great, but I don't know what to do with that." So yeah, I think it's an art. I think it's a simple thing to do, but it's an art of how you present that. And different people want to be listen in different ways. They're on a different wavelength, and it's kind of tuning into that, I guess.
Also, a lot of time we found you don't have to articulate by words and by talking. So I will give you a few examples. Like we have people are really, really good in articulating their ideas in writing, like fascinating. And when I read it, it's like super clear, very cohesion. And some people are very good in telling things in a storytelling way, and you listen to them and you get it very clear picture. They draw the picture for you. And some are articulating by doing. And I met a lot of talented engineers. They say, okay, give me just 1 or 2 days. I will show you what I mean. And then they build a prototype, very, very small prototype. All of it's like maybe hard-coded things, doesn't matter. But they are able to articulate their idea through building and showing you, okay, this is what will happen. User will click here, user will go there. This is how I'm thinking about that. And say, wow, yeah, this is, of course, makes sense, or this is amazing.
People have different languages, don't they? How they communicate and stuff. And I think that's really fascinating. Hopefully, this is inspiring a lot of leaders out there to look at how you get people to express what they need to do. I'm a very visual person. I miss the days when we used to have whiteboards, getting them on the drawing. Remember those days,
Me too. I'm a very visual person as well.
I used to joke that everybody should have a whiteboard attached to them and they should walk around with it so we can kind of, but obviously that's a bit of a crazy idea. But yeah, we do have that. And I do miss that. And sometimes, in the new environments that we work, which is very remote, it's very difficult to do that. But yeah, demonstrations is an interesting one, actually. Just say, look, yeah, I've got an idea and this is what it looks like. I guess by the demonstration, you're providing the outcome that you're trying to head towards. It's demonstrating that. And then, the detail behind is kind of irrelevant. It's the outcome that you want to show.
Actually, this is a very good technique in also product discovery, and I think Mark Keegan spoke about it a lot, where the idea of building fake doors and building also half-working prototype to see the user engagement. So what you do basically is you want to launch a new feature and you want to see people will be interested or not. So in example of the fitness challenge, you can connect your Apple Watch to track your steps. It doesn't work. When they click on it, they say, okay, this is coming soon. Thanks for your interest. We'll inform you. And you see how many people is doing that. and you can build also like half-cooked feature that is doing things in a very simple way. And there's a lot of these examples from Peter Levels, Levels.io, and his journey from building like the nomad list, and just publishing an Excel sheet with some of the places where you can work in a certain country and what is the conditions. And then he forgot it's open, so anyone can edit, but no one spammed it. They start to put a lot of data into the nomad list and made it very useful for the entire community. People start to actually self-moderate and so on. So the idea of building and putting things in the hands of people is a way of not only communication, it's a way of art and way of expressing what you want to do, and you can use it in a different ways within the teams and with the users, and publishing that, and that people see what you mean actually, but by the work you're doing.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. So my final question on leading people is there something that you wish you knew earlier about human nature that would have helped you in your leadership that you can share with our audience here?
One of the things you learn when you are starting leadership very early, that what drive people is different, and what works for some people are not the same. Like a lot of leaders treat the team as one thing. Like, I will work with my team with this process, and I will work with all individual in the same way. Like, for example, I will set goals for every one of my team members using OKRs, and then I will follow up and whatever it is. Or a VP leading multiple cross-functional team will say, okay, we will apply this process, like Shape Up, for example, in all of them. What I learned the hard way is that's fundamentally wrong. People are different, team are different, everything is very unique. And there's nothing that works for even within all leaders is the same. Like if you're a manager of managers, nothing will work with all of them. Each individual is fundamentally unique. You need to find what motivates them, what demotivates them, how they like to receive feedback, how they like to communicate to, how they like to do the work, what is their weakness point, what is their strength, how you can double down their strength and make it stronger, what is their best time for them to shine, and what is the worst time to give them a challenging work, how much challenge is motivating and how much challenge is demotivating. Because some people, if the challenge is not gonna break them, they don't feel challenged enough. And you find also this in some athletes, like the challenge is not like crazy, you feel like that's too easy maybe. So the understanding that took from years, that it does, what works with someone would not naturally work with others. What works with a team doesn't necessarily work with other team. What works in one organization not necessarily will work in other organization, and so on.
Yeah, it's what I'm hearing there is really get to know each other, and that way we can have some great conversations around knowing what we know about each other. So that's great. So as we come to the closing arc of the podcast, unfortunately, I've got some nice warm questions around, some of your journey. Are there any books or any things that you've experienced throughout your journey that you'd like to share here as a kind of some of your kind of gateways, your kind of milestones that really helped you along the way?
Yeah, I think one of the books that changed me a lot in maybe more than 10 years ago was a book called Mindset, and it's about the growth mindset. It's about yes, exactly, and it's talking to educators and the students and how to have the growth mindset and failure versus looking at failure as an opportunity. That changed everything fundamentally in me, and I highly recommend it. The second book that also took a very close place in my heart was The Hard Things About Hard Things, Ben Horowitz. It's unbelievable. And I started to listen more and more and read more about Ben Horowitz after this book got recommended to me. I think it's really interesting that what people maybe perceive as hard things are superficial hard, and what's really hard people are avoiding even to do or talk about it. And being honest to yourself about what's really difficult, what's hard decision you need to make is something unique. But the entire book is amazing. Like if you can get one amazing idea from one book, it's worth reading. For hard things about hard things, you will get at least 10 amazing fundamental ideas that can change you.
Beautiful share. I'm going to add that to my list. Actually, you've inspired me to do that. So yeah, the hard thing about hard things and the mindset book. In fact, I was talking to a business owner around that very book and that very topic. I shared a video of one of Carol Dweck's speeches. So audience who are not familiar with it, really look up at some of her work. It's very simple. And it's interesting how we raise our awareness around our own mindset, where we are in ourselves, but also the people that we have around us, and how we can help them use language slightly differently to tune into the possibilities and growth that, that's available to them. So fantastic share. Yeah.
Yeah, since we spoke about motivation a lot, also there's a book called Drive. It talks about exactly this idea and what drives people, what motivates them. It's fascinating. So if audience are interested about learning about the topic of motivation, because it's a huge topic, I think Drive is the best place to start.
I think that's Daniel Pink. I think that's the author there. Yeah. In fact, I'm sure there's an RSA video YouTube where they take the concept of drive and motivation, intrinsic motivation. I think you mentioned that earlier on, and they put it into somebody drawing on a whiteboard. There I am with my whiteboard obsession again, and it's beautiful. Have you seen that yourself?
No, I haven't.
I'll share that with you. Actually, I think you'll like that because you like the book. So brilliant share, great books. One of them on my reading list now. I'm going to be a tech genie for a second. I'm going to offer you a wish. What's your wish to the tech genie for your leadership, for your company, maybe for tech in general? What would you wish for from the tech genie?
I wish to put a powerful personal device in kids' hands so they can innovate in their very early years. And I think, I don't know if you saw this chart before or not. I will try what I'm saying to remember the source. Your creativity and innovation as a child, it starts at 90%. And as you go into teenager time, around 15 years old, it dropped to 30, and in adult the time it dropped to 10. If we want to solve the most fundamental world problems and change our universe in a much better place, start with kids, and we get them, and we don't take away this creativity and innovation from them, giving them something they can work and build on everyday time and make it accessible for them, gonna change the world. So I would ask you to put this in hands of every child.
In fact, I've got them working on it right now. I telepathically told my team to work on it. I think that's a great idea. You're absolutely right. And the sad thing is that we do drop this stuff as we get older, and it's such a shame. It's part of our magic, if you want to call it that. And it's to bring some of it back. And it makes me reflect on why that happens as well, but that's maybe another podcast in itself. So thank you for sharing that. That's a great wish. I'm going to work on that. So as we come to the final full stop of the podcast, what's your final key takeaway that you'd like to leave our tech leader audience or techies out there listening to this podcast as a parting gift?
So I think what I would like to share with audience is stay curious and believe in your team members, because it always surprised me how much it can change people, your behavior toward them. So when I got an intern and they're really like in a very far place from where they're gonna be, but you as a leader, you believe in that intern, and they become, and you see them how they transform into world-class engineer or a leader. This is priceless. And start believing in people, because that's transforming. I got people believed in me. That's why I became who I am as a leader right now. And there are a lot of people waiting for someone to believe in them. So believe in people.
Beautiful. What a beautiful elegant note to finish on. Thank you for your time, Ahmed. It's been wonderful having you on CTO Confessions.